How would you say your mental focus is?
Oh, it's focused. I haven't, look, I have trouble even mentioning, even saying to myself, my own head, the number of years. I no more think of myself as being as old as I am than fly. I mean, it's just not, I haven't observed anything in terms of, there's not things I don't do now that I did before, whether it's physical or mental or anything else.
That's such a great clip. I've never seen that clip. I have no idea what he's talking about. That's amazing. Breitbart News editor-in-chief Alex Marlow is the author of Breaking Biden, Exposing the Hidden Forces and Secret Money Behind the Machine Behind Joe Biden. His family and his administration, and then his previous book, Breaking the News, is just come out in paperback. Alex, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, Mike. Thanks for having me on for this scintillating subject matter.
Well, you're the expert. So first of all, that clip is hilarious. Maybe we should break, I don't know, should we break Biden into two segments? Maybe like old Biden and current Biden? How about old Biden? Was old Biden sharpened with it?
Yeah. No, he's the same guy. And this is why I'm emphatically in the he will make it to the election camp, because he's always been this way. I spent a year and a half researching him. As you know, you've been very kind to share with your various audiences some of my research. And I found the craziest stuff Biden said. He said in the 70s, he said in the 80s, he said it 5 years ago. He's not doing anything different from what he always does. He's always been this way, and he's got a grip on power now. He's not going to give it up.
Yeah, that's the most important thing. Because I don't know why I was naive enough to think that he would go off into the sunset and you know, let it pass and say, oh, I did the 4, I'll now pass the torch down to other people. And then I read your book and it's like, well, no, of course he won't do that. Like, there's no chance. Well, why? Enlighten us why he won't do that.
Well, there's a couple of reasons. First of all, this is his whole life. The presidency's always defined his life. He's wanted to be president since he was a child. I don't know if there were records, like actual records back then when it first dawned on him, I want to be president. Everything he's done has been building up to this moment, and he's finally got it. And the guy he's going to run against is the guy he beat last time. So all of that suggests he's going to stay in there. All the various powers that be are pretty happy with him. If you look at the betting markets, they still think he's still going to be the guy. If you look at the donor class, they can't give the guy money fast enough. Kamala Harris as well, his running mate, who's so unimpressive, still rakes in donor cash. The political apparatus is ready to rally behind him because they know that he's good for business. If you look at the stock market right now, the biggest companies in the world benefit. If you look at the defense contractors, the consultants, they're all thriving in Joe Biden's America. They're not going to upset that apple cart. But the main ingredient, the reason why he has to cling to power forever, is that he is no heir. He is no one to pass off his legacy to. And until that person emerges, he's going to hang on till his dying breath.
Okay, we got a couple things there. So I think everyone who's not plugged in like you are is curious what the donor class, what the elites, what the people behind the scenes are doing and thinking. And it's easy to come to a conclusion, I think, just making it up, that they don't like Joe. They really do want to kick Joe out. So what's your assessment on the people in charge? They do like him.
Well, they're not dumb, so they know he's vulnerable. They know that he's not been a great president and his policies have failed in a lot of ways. But he's been good for them personally. If you look at the tech sector, the Magnificent Seven, as they call it, the 7 companies that are kind of carrying our stock market, the most powerful companies in the world, they're, 5 out of the 7 are just absolutely killing it right now. Tesla's not doing that great at the moment, but that's a cult stock around Musk. And Google's kind of off because the AI programs are now competing with the search, which is interesting. It's an interesting wrinkle. But by and large, the biggest companies in the world love Joe. Defense contractors love Joe. Joe is a jobs program for the war industry because he's constantly putting us on the precipice of war, which is great for their business. The DC establishment is so not threatened. Hollywood, Wall Street, no one's threatened by Joe. And so that means they can go and continue to take advantage of our system. So getting anyone else in there is there's a thought, there's a suggestion, there's an inkling that maybe some things will change. And the people in power in this country, the oligarchy, they don't want things to change. So they're happy with Joe.
Yeah, good point. What about his health, though? We kicked off the segment talking on one of my favorite stories is Woodrow Wilson. in 1920 or 1919, he had a stroke and he was like in bed for a year and no one knew. And then the New York World wrote an article about him and how he's great and everything's amazing. And the guy won a Pulitzer Prize and it was a total lie. So I don't know if you could pull that off in 2024, but maybe they could. Like, how bad would his health have to be before they have to push him off?
Yeah, it's not going to get bad enough unless he's literally has a foot in the grave. They don't care. They're able to cover up a lot of stuff. This is one place that I found I was not totally satisfied when I was researching this in the book, because it really does feel like they go out of their way, the people around Joe, to lie about his health. I do believe that. All that we could figure out, we could glean his health problems, Mike, are that he has acid reflux and a stiff gait. Those are the only problems with Joe, who's 9 million years old, which of course is a lie. And then they had this weird, remember that weird sleep apnea news cycle where he had all those imprints on his face from the sleep apnea device? Everyone's going, what's going on? The explanation they gave was so surreal because they acted like it's no big deal. This is a condition a lot of people have. And also that we had disclosed this 15 years ago. I had no evidence this was disclosed 15 years ago. So it was simultaneously this like fleeting thing that no big deal, but also he's had it forever. And it's just, the messaging is just terrible and clearly dishonest. But he's always come off as a guy who's deteriorating. That's the main thing. And I don't see a lot of rapid decline relative to what we've always seen.
Oh, say that last sentence again. What do you mean?
I don't think he's rapidly deteriorating. He's always been a few fries short of a Happy Meal, so to speak. And there's always been something off about the guy. But that's been since he was a boy. So it's not that different now.
But what about his stiff gait? Is it stiffer? Is it getting stiffer over time?
It looks very stiff when he's wandering around the White House lawns. I mean, it just seems like he is quite awkward. He claims to be a 6 handicap in golf, Mike, which would put him in like the top 2 or 3% of golfers in the country. So that's a Kim Jong-un propaganda. Pretty impressive considering his schedule.
Yeah, gosh, the best joke about Biden is the Shane Gillis joke that when he ends a speech, he turns into a Roomba. Just doesn't know where to doesn't know where to go with that gait of his. Listen, the most important point of your book, I think, and everyone needs to read it, of course, but the most important point, it can't be made enough, is that he knows what he's doing. Like, you don't stumble into the White House. And I think that's such a good point. We can't just write him off as a fool. So, and I think people are quick to do this with the Obamas. They're like, oh, no, the Obamas are really running the show. What is that relationship? Who's really running the show at the White House today?
Yeah, I have no evidence the Obamas are running the show. This is one of these things that it makes sense logically, but there's not really any evidence. And it's a lot of people are fantasizing about the Democrats parachuting Michelle Obama in at the DNC to be the nominee. The reason why they're fantasizing about that is because it could work. If they tried to do that, no one would probably stop them. And they would be, I mean, if Joe didn't really put his foot down, then they could pull it off. The problem is the Obamas show no interest in doing anything like that. Michelle Obama doesn't like this country. She's getting paid tens of millions of dollars to write books and do documentaries and do podcasts. And they've got fiction movies now. And it's a very easy life. And she can be removed from the public eye. The thought that she wants to, start dealing with trade policy and South American policy and war in the Middle East and the Democrats are in a rock and a hard place with what's going on with Israel, because their base wants a Palestinian state. They want to reward the terrorists. And common sense people think, well, why would you do that? And they got to navigate that. Michelle Obama doesn't want to do any of that. So she's no interest in this. And so until I see evidence she does, then Joe's their guy. They're stuck with Joe. And yeah, the Obamas have some people in their ecosystem that are in the White House. But the same thing with the Clintons and the same thing with people who have been with Joe Biden since the 1980s are in his kitchen cabinet or his regular cabinet right now. So it's a big balancing act.
Yeah, it's really interesting about Michelle. We'll talk more about her in the next segment. I read this analysis about celebrities because people are talking about like The Rock running for president. And this person, whoever this was, like, The Rock's never going to run because who wants to do all the things you just said? Like, I'm already rich and famous. I can do whatever I want and go wherever I want. Like, what's the point of like dealing with all this nonsense? So I guess the question then is like, why does Trump want to do it? Or is he just a different breed of ambition?
I think Trump saw it probably as a win-win. He's always thought about running for president. So when he ran the first time, I think he probably thought, I could do a good job. I could be a disruptive force. I could reset some stuff. And he obviously is the biggest ego on the planet, and that would have been very satisfying to that. And then if he didn't, he would have got all sorts of attention. And he's very much of the mindset, from what I've got to know him a fair bit, that the vast majority, not all press is good press, but the vast, vast, vast majority of press is good press. So he runs a good campaign. He mixes it up with people, probably could help his businesses, and maybe he pulls it off and wins. I don't know if that's the wiring of people who are in this current, who have been accepted by mainstream Hollywood, people who are do blockbuster movies and get all these endorsement deals on their Instagram. So what do you want to do? You're now going to face down Xi Jinping? It's a flight of fancy, and it's not going to happen anytime soon.
Very good. Last question. Will any of Joe's scandals catch up to him before Election Day, or now is the media just going to pass over them all?
Yes and no. I certainly hope they will, because I think the pressure coming from Comer is going to be intense. I think Hunter is going to make some mistakes because he is a troll by nature. And he knows Joe's going to pardon him after the election, win or lose. So he's going to be tempted to commit all the crimes possible between now and Election Day. So I think that's going to happen, because he's going to probably continue to do bad things because he can get away with them. This is going to cause, I think, some negativity for Joe, because people are going to tire of it. And aside from me, I'm going to love every minute of it. So I think that's a possibility, but hopefully there's more that comes out on Joe's finances being intertwined with foreign governments, which is 100% a thing, and there's been still relatively little reporting on it. So I'm hoping that there'll be more between now and Election Day.
All the reporting you need is on the giant book behind Alex right now. You can get a normal-sized book online, like this size, right here, Breaking Biden. How is Breitbart.com going to handle this election moving forward? What should people look forward to at Breitbart.com?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm consistently trying to feel out what are going to be the emerging narratives, the way the Democrats try to cheat. The one they seem to be going to right now is they are trying to make this insurrection or threat to democracy. That's the new coronavirus. That's going to be their excuse to do all sorts of things that we never considered as a country, keeping people off ballots, saying that people should be, locked up for being political opponents to the status quo. And that is going to be a major deal. We're going to see a lot of the Russia collusion hoax narrative played out again in that format. A lot of the coronavirus stuff, that's going to play out again in that format. That's a big deal for them. The other thing they're going to do is they're going to use tech, and they're going to use the media to try to flood the zone with anti-Trump and anti-insurrectionist content, and not report on things like, for example, the story we saw today where it's now 7:30 to get an Egg McMuffin in Connecticut. That's the stuff that people really care about. It's much more than something that Trump may or may not have done 4 years ago. It's 100% how people's lives have suffered under Joe. So can the media keep that off the front pages? By and large, they probably can.
Not off the front of Breitbart.com, for sure. The only website to go. Alex Marlow, editor-in-chief. Thanks, Alex. Appreciate it.